Welcome back to the Undisputed Podcast. It's your boy Kirk, and I'm joined by guests here, along with Pharaoh. We had a little open table discussion, so we're going to include people on it. We're wondering, what is a sport? So we're going to lead off with my favorite activity that's not a sport, which is WWE. So I'm going to ask everybody what their opinion on WWE is. I'm going to tell you mine right now. The whole Vaseline and underwear thing, it doesn't do much for me. I do recognize it as a physical activity. Like, those guys are athletes. Those guys are definitely athletes. They are athletes of the highest caliber. A lot of them are former football players or basketball players or whatever may have you. But it's extremely scripted. They know what's going to happen before it happens. And that's just my opinion on it. I have a wrestling fan next to me. Slim is going to join us today on the show to explain to us why WWE is a sport. So do your best to bear with him while he tells you why men covered in grease and underwear is a sport.
WWE is definitely it's entertainment, but that doesn't take away the fact that it can be called a sport. All right, so Ric Flair's you know who Ric Flair. Y'all know who Ric Flair is.
Yeah. Old white guy, shiny.
Ric Flair's son.
They're all shiny.
Ric Flair, no one seems to be like, no one actually cares about the whole Vaseline and the underpants except for non-wrestling fans. That's all they think about.
Okay.
But Ric Flair's son is a, what would you call, like an Olympic-style wrestler.
Okay.
And he wrestled at my school once. And Ric Flair's there. He's a legend.
Did they wear the same tights?
I think so.
And they were like, "Sir, we need to take up the Vaseline to wrestle on the mat."
A lot of the of professional wrestling has to do with the Olympic wrestling. It's still tactical wrestling. Now there may be, there's some wrestlers who aren't as, tactical. They're more the showman.
Right.
The Rock. Everyone knows him more for his charisma.
Yeah, and the dancing and the antics. Yeah.
And all the antics and stuff, but that doesn't take away from the sports part of it. It's like acrobatics.
Right.
It takes a lot of timing, takes a lot of endurance, agility, like all that stuff.
But I think what he's getting at is mostly
the scripted part.
The scripted part.
That's the part.
Yeah, right. That's where I'm at.
I think you can say that wrestling, like what you say Ric Flair's son does, is a sport. It's tough when you talk about entertainment wrestling.
It's hard.
The world wrestling, what is it, of entertainment?
What they added show
They changed it from federation to entertainment for a reason. I think it's more of just showmanship.
They got sued for that.
The
World Wildlife Federation.
Yeah.
But my thing about wrestling and what is considered a sport, in my honest opinion, the reason I like sports is because it brings me instant drama. It's unscripted drama. Like, so many things on television are scripted, but the reason that the NFL is the highest rated program on television for the last 30 plus years running is because it is truly unscripted, to the minute drama. We don't know what's going to happen whatsoever. In wrestling, you have your heroes and you have your heels, and sometimes they switch, and it is entertaining to watch, but it is scripted. And, eventually you get older and you realize, okay, they're not really hitting each other. Not that I would want them to. These are massive men, at the peak of their physical strength.
So some of them do.
Right, and some of them do. Yeah, right, and some of them do at times. But definitely, the thing that separates a sport from an activity to me, which is another thing I guess we'll get into with, cheerleading and things like that, is that sports to me is unscripted drama. It brings you instant tension, instant drama, and you don't know what's going to happen next.
I feel like the sport part is more of the
athletic.
The athletics, because you guys, basketball players, you practice.
Right.
Football players practice. All of you guys, that's y'all rehearsal.
Right.
So to speak.
Except for
y'all. We talking about practice. But yeah, so that's, you all kind of do the same thing in terms of practice, rehearsal, that type of thing. They don't sit around every week going through a script all right, so this is what I have to do there.
Yeah.
Nah, it's all in the moment type of thing. It's like improv, basically.
Yeah. But does the scripting part take away the athletic prowess or the athletic stature that they
No, not at all.
Because if that's the case, then it should be a sport, and the scripted part is just. It's not that important because
that's the entertainment.
Because it adds a certain drama of marketability that other sports can't do. Because it is a one-on-one show, and they market it and they push it that way. And in lower tiers, it's not as scripted. So if you watch the ones in the local library or in the high school gym,
right.
those might be the same type, but because it's not scripted, does that make it less of a sport, more sport? Because it's more raw and more real?
I think it all comes down to it, which is the point of us having shows. Like, what is your definition of a sport? Obviously, with wrestling, these are athletes to the highest degree. I have the utmost respect for cheerleaders as well. The amount of flexibility it requires.
So is it a
But
sport?
just
Is it a
to me,
sport? Because it's scripted chants?
to me, I'm still going to say no, because just like as
be a lot of
basketball players practice,
Don't be
as
so hot
football
here.
players practice, we still do not know the outcome of what's going to happen. We don't know what's.
If you
we
throw
have
a girl up in the
matchups.
air, you know what's happening when she comes down. You're
I mean,
chugging up in the air 30 feet. You know what's going to happen when she comes
There's
down.
always the chance for error, of course. We don't know, like, if if
that's a scripted,
if a base throws a flyer up in the air, is the base going to catch her? I would hope so,
mean-
because then it's just like it's a disaster after that.
Remember the iconic Hell in a Cell match, Undertaker pushing Mankind off
Yeah.
the top of the cell.
That was unscripted.
No one knew what was gonna happen with that.
Yeah,
They
but
threw him onto a table.
The reason why it was iconic for wrestling is because no one expected it to happen. So it
Or
was
they heard
one
that
of-
like 40
it was-
feet into a
apparently
table.
was
It was-
that part was
yeah.
supposed to was
Right.
scripted
So
because it's a breakaway table.
But what made it
Supposed to
big
fall
is
to
the
that.
fact that something that was unexpected
It was
happened
unexpected.
because the expected always happened.
The
Right.
next part
That's
that
the
actually wasn't expected was the part where Mankind then fell through the top of the cage.
Yeah.
Right.
And the cage broke, and he just and I think he broke a couple
Exactly.
ribs.
Yeah, he did, and that's what I'm
punctured
saying. So,
organs.
oftentimes in wrestling, my issue is when something happens that is truly unscripted, instant drama. Someone's either hurt or dies. It's just like if that's the case, to me, that's not a sport. So when something happens that we don't expect, it's a mistake, and then someone's life is in danger
Like
after that.
cheerleading.
So it's just like that. Exactly, in cheerleading too. If the flyer gets dropped, now she's hurt.
Yeah.
That's not a sport where it's like, okay, it's a sport because if something unexpected happens, their life is in danger. It's drama, but it's not a
Football as
sport.
well.
Dan, what about the
Well,
physical
not-
aspect?
not
If you're
Some
saying
players don't die, yeah.
like wrestling is a sport in terms of the physical capability, but the fact that it's a show and it's produced and it's scripted
Right.
takes it away. What do you think about sports that we classify as having less physical demand, like let's say golf, maybe NASCAR, which there is an endurance thing to it, and there is a little talent, and there is a practice, and there is all that. But it's
Okay.
not. I wouldn't say it's physically demanding.
That's a fair point. Wrestling is definitely more physically demanding than NASCAR, even though NASCAR drivers will tell you that the G-force and the whatever. I don't care. I'm sorry. I don't care.
Yeah. That's right.
But I mean,
Oh,
it's definitely more physically demanding than like a golf or a bowling or something like
But
that.
is that a sport?
But what I will argue you with is those are sports because they all require a certain amount of precision. NASCAR I don't consider a sport. If you drive around the track fast and your body can handle the G-force, congrats. But golf, bowling, golf, bowling, things like that, they require a certain amount of skill and precision that you can't get as far as wrestling is concerned. Wrestling, good. If you can do a flip, if you can
I'm not
bench
saying
press,
that.
if you're athletic, there's a difference between being an athlete and having a precise skill that not a lot of people can achieve. Not everybody can be a golfer. If we train long enough, we can be wrestlers.
Sports.
You really, yeah.
We could be wrestlers. You have to be
That's
athletic.
Bro, I had a name when I was a kid to try to be a wrestler.
I wanted
No,
to.
hold on.
I wanted
I
to.
think
What is it?
everybody
No,
can do
what
that.
is it?
What was
Back
your
in the day,
name?
it was Mad Dog. son. Bro, I was
most
about to be
generic
crazy. I
name.
forget what my special
Mad
name
Dog.
was. It was something
The
about a
piss
dog.
off Pitbull.
Mad
but
Dog
just do
Simeon.
something.
I can't say golf is a sport. It's
Golf
It
is more of
requ-
a sport than wrestling.
It requires.
That's crazy.
It
just
requires.
because it requires
In my
skill.
opinion.
Yes.
It requires skill.
But
It requires
that doesn't make
like
them
a sharp
athletes.
ability. Yo, but the thing about it is,
I'm not gonna
golfers
do
are
a
not
flip off of
athletes at all.
freaking turnbuckle.
That's
That
the
way it's
thing.
not
But in
skill.
truth, though, if you say be an athlete, you have to understand that baseball players aren't athletes. In truth,
Wait, what?
I mean,
Hold on.
CC Sabathia is considered an
Point at the
athlete.
camera and say that.
Hold on, yeah, please.
Point
Hold
and say
on,
that.
hold on. I don't even
You
watch
can't just
baseball.
walk
If you
past
talk
that.
about major sports in American
You can't just
culture,
walk past that.
if you talk about major sports in America, I'm saying baseball is a sport.
Okay, no.
Alright,
Okay.
But if you talk about major sports in American culture, baseball athletes are not athletes.
Jesus.
Why
So
is
are
that?
we? So are we
The
judging
baseball
sports
players
by
who stand out being physically menacing stand out because they're physically menacing.
like the big
But a lot
unit
of
Randy
Babe
Johnson?
Ruth was one of the best players of all time, and he lived off of hot dogs and beer and
I don't
stuff.
think you have
What
to
you
be
can talk about that?
physically-
Look at the entire Brazilian soccer team. They got kicked
I don't
out
think you have to
for
be-
drinking and drugs and all that.
Okay,
Well, yeah,
so-
that's different though. Babe Ruth was not an athlete. at
So
all.
we go back to the beginning. What makes a sport a sport? You know, because we have sports where you don't necessarily have to be hyper athletic or hyper physically in shape in order to excel
mentally
at that
How
sport.
about acrobatics? like Olympic style acrobats.
Oh, absolutely. I think
That's a
I
sport.
think that's a sport.
A lot of that
It's
is
subjective.
incorporated
You
in
can't
wrestling.
No, but the thing is, it's subjective. So the thing is,
That's-
like you're leaving up to somebody like in football, baseball, soccer, rugby, cricket, or tennis, anything. There's a scoreboard. You win points. But would you consider something like, say, bodybuilding, gymnastics? That's very subjective to like judges. Would that be a sport, or is it more like a game?
I can say when I watch CrossFit competitions, that's a sport. CrossFit competitions are
Because it's timed.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, there's that
there are
time
metrics
aspect.
to it. I
Like,
think it
yeah,
has
you're
to be
doing
the
that, but if you finish on time first, you win first.
Yeah.
In bodybuilding, you stand there, you look good, and you're done. But you did a lot of physical work to get that body. But at the end, it's what the judges think about you.
So we're gonna right now try and separate sports from physical activities. I would say bodybuilding is a physical activity, not necessarily a sport. CrossFit
Because
is a
it's
sport
subjective.
because it's subjective. CrossFit I would consider sports similar to
So
normal
gymnastics
because
is not a
there's
sport.
right. There has to be. I would say that for it to be a sport for me, it would have to be goal oriented. There's a goal you're trying to achieve, and there has to be metrics to it, like some sort of measurables.
Mhm.
And wrestling, to go back to our first point, what's the goal here? To win, but the
figure it
winner,
out.
they know it already, and there's no real measurables.
That's
If
they know it already.
I guess. I mean, but
I'm telling you.
Listen,
I'm gonna keep doing this.
We're never
if
gonna
you
get
can
over
find
this.
of any proof, anybody out there can find any proof that wrestling isn't completely scripted, and we don't know who's winning, please let us know at Undisputed Show on Twitter.
Yeah, let
But
us
until
know
then-
that those earpieces that
Yeah.
the refs have aren't because. All right,
Let me throw something out there. Let me throw something out there. Something that's blowing up right now is making a lot of money, and it's not subjective, but it does take a lot of talent. Might not be physically demanding, but what do you think about Major League Gaming? Is that a sport?
Oh
An
no,
e-sport?
that's
I gotta say it is.
I think it is.
I think it is. I
The
competed
mental
in-
aspect is crazy.
Yeah, I competed
Oh my
in
gosh.
gaming when I played Call of Duty 4 with game battles and law and order.
What
And I
game
can
is
say,
that?
bro, it's demanding, bro. It's not easy.
I mean-
because you're playing against. There's so many different. First off, there are metrics. There's a goal. Listen, there's a goal that you're competing
you guys
against
are
another
stressing me out.
group of people against. While it's not athletic, it's not physical, or
Yeah.
anything like that. Obviously,
It's not
This is
scripted.
the guy
It is
that doesn't
demanding.
Not
It just
scripted,
takes
it's
a lot of
demanding.
accuracy.
you have to bring together a group of people to
A
achieve
team.
a common goal.
It's saying everything that you're saying. Maybe
But-
maybe to limit the physical demanding, but sitting there working.
Everything else is
Everything
there.
else is there.
There's teamwork. There's chemistry that you need.
There's a
there
point
are-
system.
Yeah,
There's
a lot
drama.
of stuff
I
that
don't
you
believe
need.
my ears. Okay, so
We're adding
I agree
everything
with you
to
with
it.
this one.
I'm gonna have to expand my
Oh, you're
sports definition, obviously, because I originated with unscripted drama and being athletic and things like that. Now, of course, they don't have to be athletic, but you guys cited the mental toll.
You do.
So does that make chess a sport? It's very mentally demanding. You know what I mean? There is a goal involved.
It's
It's
not
unscripted.
team-oriented.
It's unscripted. It doesn't have to be team oriented to be a sport. Track and field is not team oriented. So I'm just saying that, it's not team oriented, but it is mentally demanding. It is unscripted because you don't know who's going to win. Does that make chess a sport? We're going to call chess a sport now? No, we're not. It is a competition. Let's not confuse competition with what's a sport.
Well, you can say the same thing about
Major about what?
track.
You
talk
have to
about
be
competition
accurate.
sport,
You have
There's
to
a lot
be-
of things you can throw
have
at
to
that.
be athletic and precise to be on a track team.
but at the same time, in track, a lot of things in track are just to prepare people.
Okay,
for
so
major
let me
sport.
further my definition of sports, and let's say it has to include, you have to have a physical attribute in order to play. In track, you have to be fast, strong, jump high, something like that. In Major League Gaming, you could look like me or you could look like Marlon, and you're still, just as able.
Back in the day, man.
Back in the day, Marlon, or present day, Marlon. But like, what I'm saying is, you have to have a physical attribute in order for it to be considered a sport, in my opinion.
Tug of war is more of a sport to me than gaming.
Quick reflexes.
Quick reflexes. Yeah. I'm not gonna do that, because at least in golf you have to have some power to drive the ball down the range. In baseball, whether you're particularly athletic or not,
baseball hand-eye coordination's out of the world.
hand-eye coordination's got to be out of this world. Yeah. You have to be physically strong. If you're a pitcher, even CC Sabathia threw heaters back in the day. He could still throw one now. You have to be precise still while throwing these 90+ mile an hour fastballs. Major League Gaming, it's a skill, but you don't have to be physically dominant or physically able in any particular category. You could be Major League Gaming while drinking a bottle of Hennessy or drinking or smoking or whatever you want to do. But you can't do.
Nice Sunday afternoon.
It sounds like a nice Sunday afternoon, but you can't do that when you're playing golf, playing baseball, bowling, any of that stuff. Because
Tiger Woods showed you can do a lot while you play.
You can do a lot while you play golf, but you can't do that. So like it shows like all the capabilities you have can't be affected by things like that while you're major league gaming.
Okay, so we're just gonna close it up. So by summing up what we think is and is not a sport. So wrestling, sport or no sport? We're gonna go what? We're gonna go down. I'm gonna name a few and then we're gonna go down.
No.
Yes.
I think it is.
Ugh.
NASCAR.
2 for 2. No.
Nah.
I think it is. Golf.
Yes.
Yep.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bodybuilding.
No.
Competition.
No.
Nah.
Nah.
No, not at all. Major league gaming in the sense of video games.
Yes.
I can't believe y'all think major league gaming is a sport. It is absolutely not.
It's an
a sport.
e-sport. It's a sport.
E-sport.
It's-
Esports is a whole new category, bro.
Can we put ultimate frisbee on there?
Can we? Might as well. You might as well say it's major league gaming is a sport. Put Uno down there too. I mean, it's
Bro,
just like
ultimate frisbee get lit, bro.
Have you seen that?
I used to play.
It gets
Used
crazy.
to
Ultimate
play.
Frisbee was good.
He had to retire because of injuries.
major league gaming is not a sport. What do you think?
Not at all.
I think it is, but we'll leave it up to you guys. What's a sport? What isn't a sport?
As long as it's not major league gaming, please include us. Again, Undisputed Show on Twitter, and we'll see you next
if
time.
you need athletes, let me
No,
know.
I used to
Call
play
me.
water polo.
Water polo. I'm out.
I used to play.
Bell's going to be back. Ben Roethlisberger, he's another ageless wonder. He's, to me, one of the more underrated guys as far as, you know, when we talk about the greatest quarterbacks in this game. He's not mentioned a lot. He's often an afterthought.